This statue is of Asclepius. He's holding his rod, and the rod of Asclepius symbolizes medicine. In our society, honor, truth, loyalty has in many ways disappeared, especially from those people whom we should expect to see these values. For example, doctors, scientists, professors, leaders of our people, like government officials. Every herd of animals on earth follows a leader because it is safer, because the leader usually knows more than the rest of the people. We see this rod, it symbolizes medicine. We know that there is a pole, a very famous pole. The rod is a pole, right? It is called the North Pole. And we know that the sun basically circles these areas. Whether it's an imaginary thing or it's a real thing, I am not getting into this debate. What I am saying is that all the stars seem, or maybe they do, circle the pole. This is the point. The point is that this circling, it's almost like a snake, right? Circling the pole, the rod of Asclepius. And this Asclepius has been shown to us often in history to tell us that if you are sick, if you are dying, then look at the pole, look at the snake, come to this area, because that is where healing, where medicine is. Interesting enough, the native of the regions around the pole always said that getting closer to the Aurora Borealis, to the pole, one could find healing. Now, in countries around the world, especially United States, we see that medicine uses the rod. It uses Hermes, and no longer the rod of Asclepius. This rod of Hermes depicts actually commerce and negotiations. In other words, it's depicting sales and profits. And we know now that if we go to a doctor is not going to tell you, well, what you need to do is stop eating tomato sauce and stop eating breads that have these preservatives, because they are destroying your stomach lining, and that is what's causing acid reflux, what is causing you to have gastritis and later on ulcers. In many cases, the doctors just go ahead and say, well, go ahead and take this pill, because when you take this pill, I get a bonus. And depending on my sales, then I get $1 million per year. This is not a made up story. This is exactly what happens. And the same goes with heart disease. They don't tell you, well, why don't you try fasting for 3 or 4 days? A lot of people are trying this and it works. I'm telling you this because I tried it. And fasting heals. But are they using a different rod by mistake, or are they doing it on purpose? You see, we have come to a point where we are so bewitched. We have been conditioned to believe only what a scientist says, or a doctor, professor, a president, somebody who has authority supposedly, even though they don't, because they're lying to us. And so now, to get rid of this bewitchment, when you hear the word doctor say, then think, uh-oh, that means that I have to think for myself because they're probably lying to me. Scientists say, then you have to think, oh, they're lying to me. Think for yourself. If the president says that they're lying to you, think for yourself. These are terms that you ought to think. That whatever statement is accompanied by these titles or words, you cannot be trusted. They cannot be trusted. I have been told by professors, by teachers, by governments that magic does not exist. Magic is superstition. Supernatural powers are fantasy for children. And yet, if you read historical records of the history they have written, right, his story, you will read about the Queen of England, the kings of England, spending a great deal of money investigating the occult, which is the hidden things, like supernatural powers, magic, etc. Now, if one of us starts talking about this, then they automatically say, you see, that man is superstitious. He has not an intelligent mind. Well, we know now that our leaders cannot be trusted. So going and researching these particular subjects that are prohibited by the bullies of the internet, of YouTube, by the bullies of science, or those clowns that come up on TV and criticize a different thinking, then we know we must go and look into these areas because there is something there they don't want us to find. So I will tell you, I have been going to the bank often to make deposits. Which bank have I been going to? The real bank, the blood bank. If you want to change this world, you will change it, as they say, with sweat, blood, and tears. That is how you're going to change the world. And write your intention. Writing is what helps the whole process of making an idea, a dream, into a reality. And now I have added a third element, fasting. Yes, I'm doing it faster, right? Fasting. I am bringing my intention into this world faster. This is a picture of the Aurora Borealis. I live in the north, the area close to this light. And People around the world are told that this is just a show. It's a light show. It's electrons hitting the atmosphere. What are you going to do? Are you going to believe what they tell you? Are you going to do the same you do in everyday life? Or are you going to go and look for yourself? What is causing this? The Vikings said that once you pass the sea of ice, there's more land. And there is a place. There's water you can drink. And you will get eternal life. You will grow young again. The monks, they talked about the 4 islands and Mount Meru being in the middle. Kings of Denmark talked about this also. What are we going to do? Are we going to just believe what the so-called authorities want us to believe? Or are we going to go and find for ourselves what is really happening there? I say, let's go. I say we have one life to live, and death is coming to us all. And depending on your mileage, your age, once you get close to 70, that's pretty much it. Let's do something about it. Let's go look for that, the Aurora Borealis, and for the city called Hyperborea, which coincidentally, hyper just means beyond, the Borea, which is beyond the Borealis, right? Let's not just look at them. Let's go and find what they have to offer. Love to all.